this meeting, the August 17th meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from June 15th, 2023.
I will move to approve said minutes.
Second.
All right, motion is on the table to approve the minutes from June 15th. Is there any discussion? All right. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Seeing none, the motion carries. Sometimes I'm a little rusty when on the Robert's rules when it's been a few months. All right. Next item on the agenda is the public forum. This is for items not on the agenda. Is there anyone here to speak on items that are not on the agenda? All right. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public forum. Next item on the agenda is a motion recommending City Council approve the donation of property at 1000 Jarrett Circle. And I know we do have some audience members here to speak on that issue. So.
Yes. So in the commission action form in front of you that was sent out, it's related to the donation of property located at 1000 Jarrett Circle. That property right now is owned by 3 individuals who are in the audience. We have Herman Kornbach, Lee, there you go, and then William Gutowski. So they are graciously offering to donate property that they have, and we do have a picture. We'll put it up on the screen. So it's about 0.6 acres. It's right next to Herman and Lee's property, but they are offering to donate the property. Talked about the assessed value on the city's assessor's website at $78,500. They purchased it for $110,000 in 2013. They'd like to make the donation with 2 stipulations. And the one stipulation is that the question or the lot itself would be included as part of Emma McCarthy Lee Park and Munn Woods, the green belt, and it would remain in its undeveloped natural state in perpetuity. That's the option number 1, or the stipulation. Stipulation number 2 is that the city would agree not to install or develop any formal entrance to the greenbelt area. For example, signage, marked path, or something similar for a period of 20 years or until the date at which both Herman and Lee have vacated their residence at 1002 Jarrett Circle. So this is, you can look at green. So what's in blue is where it is, Jarrett Circle right here. And then up to the north here is Ross Road. All right, so Ross Road right there, Jarrett Circle. This is this property. Herman and Lee live right here. Bill used to live in this property, no longer lives on that property right there. Now, the second picture, will show you how it relates to overall Emma McCarthy Lee and Munn Woods. So you can see property here in blue, Munn Woods, and McCarthy Lee is outlined in white. So it does fit very nicely, into the park. We're always for, adding, park space, preserving green space, and so on. We also on this, this is where the park entrance is. This is where people drive in. Over here off of Phoenix, there is an access point. There is one over here on Trail Ridge, off of Woodland. And then there's another one, right over here, comes from Oakland, and there's this Oakland access and then enters the park right there. So one of the things that was appealing to us when this was presented to us is that we have park entrance here, we have park entrance here. This is kind of in the middle, so it creates an easier access, for people in that area. And right now, this is not in our master plan, to try to acquire additional property. but sometimes these things get presented to us and it makes sense. And to staff, it does make sense, to do it. It is adjacent to the park, to the park land. It's being donated, so there's no cost to the city. And there's no structures on there, so basically it's clean and green right now. And again, it provide an access in the future. So in conversations with the owners, we did not have any issue with waiting, the 20 years until the time that Herman and Lee vacate the property. It's not that people couldn't access, and in having conversations with Herman and Lee, that people could access it. We just don't sign it or anything, at this point. And it's really from a privacy issue, because you can see that it is pretty narrow right here. So with it, this is, commission does not have the authority, to accept, a donation or accept land. But we are bringing it to you because obviously it does relate to the parks. And we're looking to the commission to make a recommendation to the city council. So we do have several alternatives that are in the commission action form. And we are recommending alternative number 1, which is to recommend city council accept the donation of the 0.6 acres of land with the 2 stipulations cited earlier. So questions?
Well, first of all, very generous, very kind. Great little addition there. That's fantastic. This is my neighborhood, and I know the accesses around there are pretty steep, or the terrain around there.
Yeah, like Phoenix, that is,
Yeah,
there's a set of stairs there.
Yeah, I've seen that Phoenix access.
There's a
I've
set
never
of
gone
stairs
in
here.
that way.
Yep.
But with that, I don't know what the elevation change is there, but would it be possible to maybe throw a set of stairs in there for safety standpoint?
Well, I think if we were going to at some point make an access point to that, I think that would make sense. I guess the question, maybe Herman, if you could come up to the podium, because maybe a question, and it's a good question, Jeremy. So one of the stipulations that you have is that it remains, the property remains in its natural undeveloped state in perpetuity. Would that preclude us from putting a set of stairs on there, or
No, that was not what we were intending. We wanted in a natural state so that the public can access it and benefit from it. You're right; it is a little steep going downhill. The other access off of Phoenix, I remember we put that together when I was on the city council, and we got a fellow by the name of Carol Marty to build us a stairway down there, and he built a lot of other good stuff for the city parks. So I think later on, the council actually named a park for him. Maybe he has a grandchild who would be able to build that. No, we can alter the wording in such a way. We just didn't want a building there.
Oh,
okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, it's at the top of my mind regarding the Phoenix access. There was a big tree over the stairs like a week ago. You kind of had to walk under, like a tree that had fallen across the stairs. Kind of. I meant to email you, and then
Okay. So nothing to do with this, but
No,
something
this-
that
I was
Josh has to
thinking-
talk to the
thinking of the Phoenix.
talk to our forester about getting that taken care of.
So.
Other questions?
Well, when I got this, I scooped around that little circle because if I remember right, you have trees and bushes that are fairly overgrown into that strip that are going in there. What's the intent on how we're going to maintain that area? Is that going to fall upon you all, or is that going to fall upon the city to go in there and keep that clean so that this new housing ordinance we're putting in isn't going to get on us? And then how does that affect if they come in and they take shrubs down, trees down, and it opens that up a little bit on your stipulations? That 20 years is a long time. It's going to be overgrown by the time, if you just let it go. Plus, I don't think you really want that to just go nuts.
Right, right. Once the land becomes city property, it would be the city's responsibility to maintain it. Basically, anything that you would do to the rest of Munwoods, et cetera, to clear hazardous trees that are falling over or anything like that, that would be entirely okay with us. We're simply saying we don't want, like I said before, you don't want a house built back there.
But Joshua could send his people in to mow everything down, keep the weeds from getting in there. I mean, we all know that in some of these areas around here, the plants are very mature and they're growing like weeds. There's a lot of weeds growing like weeds around them as well.
Yeah.
But
Some of it you
These
can't
guys
tell
really
the difference between that and my backyard. But
I mean, but for them to run a mower in there, they're going to have to trailer something, bring it into your neighborhood, untrailer it, mow it out.
that's entirely all right. In any kind of formal legal transfer document, we're going to have to work on wording that would accommodate, just maintaining a natural area safe from hazard. We're willing to work with you on that.
Okay. I'm just considering what your expectation is as, a neighborhood that you would want the city to do, and then not the city not to do that. That'd be very clear going in. Sometimes you're given property and then you forget that, well, they didn't show up this month and your weeds are this high. And
The idea is it should be a natural area. Okay, so weeds, flowers, bushes, whatever,
Are you thinking natural or native?
yeah.
I'm not familiar with the distinction. I'm willing to work with you on.
Okay.
We're willing to work with you on that.
Because native, right now, it's not native. I mean,
No,
you have flowering bushes in there. Those are not native.
yeah, and you have a whole lot of garlic mustard. I wish we could train the deer to eat the garlic mustard. Please.
Just put hydrangeas in there and they'll get them instead. That was my one question, is because there is something that the facilities aspect of this needs to be aware of, that what are the expectations going in, because the last thing we need is for you to be generous and provide, from everything from that little dog leg back really makes a lot of sense. From the dog leg forward almost becomes maybe a burden to the city, and sometimes becomes a burden to you all because the city's not doing what the city needs to do in your mind.
No, the idea is there would be a natural area if invasive species is an issue that you would deal with in other parts of the green belt, then that would be something that we would certainly anticipate that the city would want to do here. We're not looking for the city to do any kind of regular maintenance there. All right, the whole idea is it becomes part of the green belt.
Is there a thought of just kind of nipping off that dog leg and giving the rest of the city and you guys keeping the front part, so that there's not, looking at it doesn't look like a natural access point, and you might not, there's no parking on your street either. I mean,
There's a little bit, but I get you.
We don't want to put a burden on you after you're being generous, is
Well,
where I'm looking at it. down the
right.
road.
Yeah.
I mean, just from the perspective of living over there, the Phoenix access, like people who are accessing it are in the neighborhood anyway. They're not necessarily driving. If you're driving, you can access the park from McCarthy Lee trailheads.
Right.
So people, that's just my experience. Like, I don't really typically see people parking on Phoenix and then accessing the Phoenix trailhead. It's people who live in the vicinity, and so it just, and I mean, to Herman's point, in this being kind of halfway between the two entrances, that Ross Road section, there's no sidewalk there currently, and so just having another access point, and there's no sidewalk there, and then along part of Garfield too. I don't know. It's more it's more another access point in the neighborhood as opposed to someone who's going to drive and park on the circle.
And,
I don't
and one of the things too, Dwayne, so we did have, when we were talking internally about this, we did have that conversation about, well, do we just talk about maybe taking what you said, just a big block and don't have it? But for us, the benefit of this property is adding the access. You know, that was really the benefit for us. And you know, we have a lot of areas. You're correct. You know, we do need to take care of them. But Joshua puts it on his regular rotation. You know, it gets you know, mower goes in there once a year, twice a year, whatever that is. You know, to keep things down. You know, that should not be a problem. But in the future, you know, with this and being able to add an access point and potentially some stairs. That was what was really enticing to us for this piece of property. If you take that away, I'm not sure staff would recommend accepting the piece of property. That was our internal conversation.
I think that sounds good.
I know the Phoenix access point. If you don't know the Phoenix access point is there, you don't know it's there. But it's a straight shot street. These guys are on a circle. And when I drove that circle, if you get one car pulling up in there, that's not one of you all. I'm just concerned that we have a really nice donation that adds to this part of it, but being on this circle is going to be a pinch point. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's 20 years from now, and quite frankly, none of us will be here in 20 years.
I might
Hopefully.
well,
Maybe Jeremy will be sitting here.
not on commission.
None of us will be on the
For yourself,
commission in 20
man.
years.
I was
How about
like-
that? We're not allowed to be on the commission in 20 years. There's a new rule, remember?
Oh,
And that the city is, that it's well stipulated so we don't have a very
Yep.
nice, generous donation become an issue for these folks and for you folks.
I think that, I mean, I appreciate that it's adding, we already have enough fragmented natural spaces. And so adding to a green space in a pretty natural space, I think is good for, you know, other purposes besides just access for public use. But then also, I mean, just as from some of my personal experience jogging through here, sometimes it's nice to have an exit halfway through if I want to cut a jog a little bit short. Like the times that I've used this park, it has been with those smaller access points where I'm not necessarily driving to it. And I think that, like you were saying, Sarah, it's nice for people who live in that neighborhood to just pop down and easy access.
I mean, I guess like even the entrance on the south, well, both entrances, that the one entrance on the southwest corner is also on a circle and is really not obvious. The one on the southeast corner is on like a bend. You know, I mean, none of these are like particularly convenient from a parking standpoint. And I guess if you're a trail runner and you want to drive to the park, usually you're driving to the park and parking in the parking lot. And if you live on the edge of the woods or in an adjacent neighborhood, then you have multiple ways to access the trail system. So I don't know. I'm not super concerned about it personally.
And we will be redoing the master plan, park master plan here in a year or two. And with this, I'm sure what we'll do in that master plan, we'll identify, you know, at some point, adding, you know, access, you know, with what we're talking about. So I think, I guess what I'm hearing, any other questions for Herman? Okay, thanks, Herman.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I guess what I'm hearing, you know, with it, and I think these are good things that you brought up. So maybe what you could do, and you could have a separate alternative. You know, it doesn't have to be potentially one of these three. You could say, hey, we're going to do alternative one. However, when it goes to council, you'd like staff to clarify, the no buildings, potential for stairs, and define the natural state or the native state, whatever that needs to look like. So you could do it a couple different ways. You could, hey, we'd like to, we recommend council accept the donation, and with the two things that I just mentioned.
I would move that we make recommendation number 1 with those added things to the council. That we request that there be clear language about no buildings being put on the property, and also that we clarify how we would maintain the property, in what state the owners request it be, and also the area as it leads down to the main parkway. That way there's clear expectations.
Second.
Okay. Motion on the table is alternative 1 to accept the donation of the 0.6 acres at 1000 Jarrett Circle. Well, recommend that city council accept the donation. And in the final agreement, clarify that there should be no buildings erected on the property. However, that does not include stairs or other trail amenities that could be built after the 20-year period or upon the residents vacating the property. And then also to define more specifically how the property would be maintained in terms of natural native state and mowing and things of those nature. So, okay. Love a
You got
good
it.
addendum. All right.
You got it.
Is there any additional discussion? All right. All in favor of alternative 1, recommending the city council to accept the property donation with the modifications we discussed, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right. Seeing none, the motion carries.
Thank you, Herman.
Thank you very
Lee,
much.
Bill. Thank you. Very, very nice.
All right. Next,
I'll be in touch,
the
Herman.
next step, it'll go to council, but Keith will talk to you. So council gets to ultimately decide. I'm sure Herman knows how it goes.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you all. So, all right. Next item on the agenda is a motion approving the 2024 Ames Triathlon at Ada Hayden Heritage Park. My mind briefly forgot what year it was. I was like, that's coming up soon, but it's the GAR race I'm thinking of. All right.
So for many years, or for the last few years, Iowa Multisport has hosted the Ames Triathlon at Ada Hayden Heritage Park. They're requesting to utilize the park Sunday, June 23rd of 2024. The reason being they want to get this out in front of the commission and the council, get all the approvals taken care of so they can start up registration. So IM is requesting what they have requested in the past, but some of you are new on the commission, so we'll go through it. Waiver of enforcement of the no swimming rule at Ada Hayden Heritage Park. Swimming would occur between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. on that Sunday morning. Number 2, IM is requesting the use of 2 motorized golf carts for the duration of the event to transport volunteers, water, potentially safety personnel, anybody that potentially may be injured on the route for various things. And then the third thing is to access the park at 5 a.m. on that Sunday morning. Our park hours are from 6 to 10:30, so they're asking to enter the park an hour early. The alternatives are below, but staff recommends alternative 1. Any questions?
Nope, it was a great event, and it always seems super well organized. And participant safety is a huge concern of theirs, and they're doing everything well in advance. So, anyone care to make a motion?
I'll recommend alternative 1.
I'll second.
All right. Motion on the table is to waive the enforcement of the no swimming rule from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Sunday, June 23rd, to allow Iowa Multisport to host the Ames Triathlon, to enter the park at 5 a.m. for event preparation, and to waive the no motorized vehicles ordinance to allow 2 golf carts on the trail. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor of alternative 1, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Seeing none, the motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda is capital improvements plan. Are we already in CIP season? I guess it starts in October. Unreal.
We are.
Time has no meaning. So.
It seems like we just get everything approved and moving forward, and already on to the next. So I'd maybe make it bigger, and
I'll just move it.
That's
and
fine.
then we
Yeah.
can move it. So in the packet of materials, we sent you some just a timeline, which is up on the screen right now. This kind of just gives you an idea of what we normally do. So as staff, we have already received instructions from finance in regards to what we need to do, what dates we need to adhere to, and so on. So generally what we do is we just start off with this meeting in August, giving the commission this schedule, so you kind of know what role you play in this. And again, with the capital improvement plan, CIP for short, this is funded through local option sales tax dollars. And generally what we receive, roughly, if you take the plaza and you take the aquatic center, indoor aquatic center out of the mix, we generally get about $800,000 to $1 million a year for capital improvement projects. Lately, a lot of what we have been doing has been, focused on maintenance. And there has been also increase in costs. We've given with playground equipment, we've given you those examples that, we've had to move things around. And last year we did have to do a lot of moving things around, and some things went away, and some things got delayed, and it's just because of that's the cost and what money was available. So with it, generally what we have done is in first part of September, staff will conduct a public input session, and we'll get the information out through our newsletter, through a press release, and so on. And what we do is we ask for ideas, and throughout the year we get ideas and we keep track of those. And what we will do then in October is we will bring those ideas. We also have a staff meeting coming up in the first part of August or September 7th. And what we do is we sit down with staff also and ask for their input, because they generally, the public a lot of times will look for additions, to the park system. Staff generally are looking for maintenance, and sometimes some additions, but they look at more, hey, we need to fix this, we need to upgrade this, whatever it might be. So we bring all that information to you at the October meeting. We also develop a draft CIP, and we sit down with the city manager. At times we'll go out and tour different locations if there's things that he wants to see. And then November 20th, we have a deadline for submitting our final draft, so to speak. And then what the city manager and finance do, you can start moving that up, Joshua, please. then what happens is the finance will put together, here's all the requests, here's all the money available, here's what our forecasted local option sales tax dollars are going to be. Do we have enough money to cover all of the projects? And then the city manager looks at it and starts saying, all right, here's what we have. We need you to cut. We need you to, or maybe we have occasionally, doesn't happen very often, that, hey, there is some extra money if you have some things that we want to add in. But then what we'll do is we'll have those conversations, and then by December 7th, the commission will meet with the city manager, goes through not only the CIP, ask questions. We'll give you more of that final draft of what we're thinking. And then the city manager will say, yes, we have enough money. No, we don't have enough money. We're still not sure. And have that conversation. Then early January, everything is finalized. We present on January 16th to the city council CIP. They look at all of it. On January 23rd, they'll take public input, and then they approve it in February, and then it's printed and distributed in the spring of 2024. So that kind of gives you an outline of what we'll do. Really, tonight, if there are things that are just burning, for you, or things that you have heard that say, hey, have you heard about this? Or as you're starting to have this conversation, we'd be curious about maybe doing this project, or whatever it might be. So if you don't have anything now, that's fine. We'll have conversation in September, and then we'll also have another opportunity in October. So any questions or comments? No?
No. I guess my only question maybe was when we had the ADA workshop in the spring. Yes, February, something like that. It felt like there was some encouragement from the consultant to accelerate some of those plans. Is that kind of being taken into consideration, as we start down this road again?
Yes. So one of the things that we started doing a couple years ago is we actually do have an ADA transition plan account, and we were putting money into that, and we have money in there now, and that money is there to start doing some of those projects. Now, obviously, we have $3 million worth of projects that need to get done in the next 12 years. We don't have near enough money, in there, but that's something that we do have an account, and we'll start putting money in there and then identifying projects as we go. You probably won't see maybe us identify specific projects. It'll just say that, hey, we'll start tackling things on the transition plan based on the priority that staff, gives to those. So, and there are some things, from that, I know Courtney had a call recently, about parking spaces at Brookside. That's something that we'll go out and we'll just get done. We don't need to wait. That's just something that we'll go and do it and make it accessible for people, right away. So, and we're still working on finishing up our evaluation of all the information that we got from the consultant. It's a lot of stuff,
It was a lot.
and still trying to figure out, the priority of everything, and then what do we go after first. So that's how we'll address that in the CIP.
Any other questions? All right. Next item on the agenda is project updates.
Yeah, so the project updates, the first one is for the Fitch Family Indoor Aquatic Center, and we did uh, do a staff report to City Council at the end of July. And we'll do is they'll just run through some of this information and give you updates on where we're at with this. We did so in with the design process. There's really three different design phases. We have schematic design, which we did. We just finished up design development, which is taking the schematic design and just developing it a little bit further, defining things a little bit further, start identifying what are the equipment, materials, and so on. And then we have a cost estimate at the end of design development. And then once we go through all of that, then we start moving into construction documents, which is what we have done right now. We're starting to move into construction documents. And that's really putting together the drawings, the plans, the specifications, ready to put out to bid is what we're doing right now. So with it, the floor plan, very similar to what we have had in the past from, schematic design or during the schematic design. We probably it was just over 34,000 square feet. Now we're down to just under 32,000 square feet. So just about 2,000 square feet were cut out of it. Things, still remain fairly, close to what we had with the alternate. And see that space also did shrink just a little bit. One of the things, and I'll bring up some comments from City Council as we go through this. One of the things that you see is there's 19 laps to a mile for this walking track or walking path. And council had a lot of discussion about, 19 seems to be a lot. It's very similar to what people experience at the gymnasium down at the community center. It's very similar to that. And we do have people that come in and walk, that area. Question was, well, runners, it's going to be too small. We really did not design this for runners. And then they had conversation about, well, could we make it twice the size? Could we do this? And you'll see when we're talking with the budget here in a little bit and the cost estimates, that if you do that, you're going to add in, another $1.5 million to $2 million. And plus, the one thing that's very difficult, with this is we're very limited on the site. Right? We have 3 acres, and you can only put so much on this site. And if you were going to extend the track to the north, that's the area where there is the contamination, which is an issue. So then we'd have to flip-flop the design. We'd have to do a bunch of different things. So all of it, eventually what I told council, said last year during the budget process, city manager did bring to your attention that we do need additional gym space. And it was the first time that the city manager has brought that forward to you during a budgeting process. So really, for right now, if we're going to move forward, let's do this. When we get that additional gym space, if we're talking 2 gyms or 3 gyms, depending on what it is, you could put a nice walking, running track around that. It could be elevated, and that would be much better because hopefully wherever we do that, we'll have more space potentially. So what they wound up doing, council eventually said, you know what? Let's stick with what we have. Let's keep this project moving forward. And right now, when you see the cost estimates, there is a potential, if everything came in, if bids came in, what they're estimating right now, we could get the base bid and the ad alternate, which would be great. So that's kind of one of the things that was discussed. So with the building design, still stayed pretty much the same. The one thing, I think the last time we brought you some pictures, this area right here was metal. And as we kept having conversation and talking more with the design team, we started becoming more and more uneasy with the way that metal was going to be designed, and there was going to be an air gap, and there's just a number of things, and it hadn't been used in an auditorium setting. So we got very uncomfortable being a guinea pig for that. So this right now would be precast concrete with a texture type of thing on the front side of it, and the same thing on the side. So this shows you, looking north across Lincoln Way. This is with the ad alternate. This gives you kind of looking southwest. You got the parking. And again, that's the base bid. That is with the ad alternate. Will mention also that one of the things, you see these different colored parking spaces, right here. That would actually be permeable pavers with underground stormwater management. Okay, so it shows us on here. What we're doing is we're trying to maybe do some offsite. Not sure if we're going to be able to do that because we may not see any cost savings. It may even be additional cost to go off site. We had talked about doing something at Vinker Golf Course, working with them, kind of giving us some off-site stormwater, them an irrigation pond, and with what we need to do, it would need to be a whole lot bigger for it to be effective, and it really wasn't to do something. So mostly that's not going to happen, but we'll keep on that. So this is looking to the northwest, building design, base, and then with the ad alternate. And then this is looking south, across the parking lot. So those are just some different pictures of what we're looking at. Colors have not been decided. That's something that we'll do during this construction document phase. But if you see in this with the cost estimates, this first column, right here, shows what our projected budget was. This is what we had in the CIP. And this number right here, this 20.5 million, that's what we had set aside for construction. So the design development estimate that was given, you can see 21, almost 21.5, so almost $1 million over, what our construction estimate was. And but the one thing, the ad alternate, in the projected budget, we had $3 million. That has actually come down now to 1.8 million. So it has come down. So, and then with value engineering, we actually have that down to just about 20.6 million. So we're about 93,000 over. And then when you look at with the contingency, the ad alternate, we're looking at about 32.6 million for overall cost estimate right now. One of the things in the staff report, the VE options were listed. I'm not going to go through all of those. Some of those items could be bid as ad alternates if there's something that we really feel strongly about. From a funding standpoint, the original budget, we had funding of 30.7, but right now with this, uh-oh,
Yes.
what'd I do?
I don't know.
The-
I can just get you back.
Nope.
This one?
No, it's further
The
down.
budget.
But if you can just put it back to the slideshow. Yeah, there you go. I can get it from. All right. So So with that, initially we were looking at 19.3, just over that for geo bonds. And down here, there's this note, council is authorized up to 21.2 in geo bonds. So with potential funding, if we went up to 20.8, and then all these other things, donations, we're feeling good about that. Story County contribution, the ARPA funding was not something that we had in our original funding, but you can see right there is what the cost estimate is. Now, one thing should point out too is that with this CAT grant, so in the round, we submitted that CAT grant in January. We did not get any funding, for that. And we've been asked or encouraged to apply again. But right now, usually they're last dollar in for that funding. And right now, we can show that we have enough funding. So it's something that we'll see where bids come in at and everything. But that is something that we can apply for at a later time. So additional activities, geothermal wells. So we did get approval, limited approval from the Iowa DNR for the horizontal well field. You can see where we're limited to in doing that. Our consultants still feel that it's worthwhile to do with it. So we do, one of the things in that letter, you probably saw that we do need to get a permit from Story County now to do the geothermal wells. We have a meeting with them on Monday, along with the Iowa DNR and our consultant. So we'll keep moving through that process, and once we get that finalized, we'll bring more information, back to you and to council. And then stormwater management, I kind of went through that already. We're still working through that piece. So as far as the next steps, we have started the construction document phase. We've talked about the geothermal, the stormwater. We need to finalize that. We do need to get the final state of Iowa approval for the aquatic portion of the design. Water's Edge, who's our water consultant, along with RDG, who's the architect, they have been having conversations with the state of Iowa already on some questions that have come up and getting some answers. So we'll continue to do that. We'll need to go through the city's development review committee for approval. And then at the end of the construction document phase, we'll provide council with updated cost estimates. And then, if we need to do some more value engineering, we will do that. If there are some excess funds, then we can identify where some of those add alternates, could be for the project. So that's kind of a quick overview of where we're at right now. So questions, comments?
I'm really happy to see the walking path seems to be materializing in a more concrete way. I think the overwhelming sentiment has been in favor of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, looks great.
So a lot of work,
Yeah.
from staff.
Ship it.
And it's
It's. I mean, it's a huge
we'll have
project.
to say is, with this project and with some of the other projects that we have going on, it's almost a full-time job just working through some of these things, and then yet staff is still able to do everything else that that they're able to or need to do. So kudos to everybody that's been working on the project.
Yeah, I think the site engineering for this project has been pretty substantial, and working with multiple agencies and whatnot for approval. So
Yeah.
but it was slightly more complicated the time we had to get DNR to approve our floodplain bridge or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, great. Okay. monthly report. The next item
Nope,
is monthly
we still
report.
have
Nope.
the
Oh, never mind. Oh, there's
plaza.
like 5 more things to talk about. Sorry.
Yeah, so we have the plaza update, and I'll just
Skipping ahead.
so with this one, we continue to have conversations. We are moving forward. I think we've mentioned this before that we did, get a construction permit from the state of Iowa to move forward with the aquatics portion, of the plaza. In fact, in the next week or so, they'll start working on the balance tank and hopefully start getting some piping and things in for the spray pad area. They're going to start mobilizing. They have started mobilizing again, getting people back on site. We had a meeting yesterday afternoon with a number of consultants and contractors and subcontractors related to the ice aspect.
Will that be ready this winter?
It will not. It will not. Right now, the chiller aspect of it was ordered in May, I believe. In May, it's not scheduled for delivery until mid-January, and then that'll get put in, and we'll probably test it this winter. We may be able to have it open, but we're not sure. It just depends on where the rest of the plaza is in completion state. So we're working through that, and I'm not going to get into all the details of that aspect, but it has been frustrating, and we continue to work through it. And the thing is that we'll get people back on site, and the goal is to try to get everything as much as done this fall. Get the chiller and the condenser, get that stuff installed this winter, test the ice, and then finish the landscaping in the spring. And then we would have the spray pad would open, probably at either the end of May or early June. So, and then we would have a complete season of ice starting in November of 2024.
Yeah, I was Susan Guiaz to put out a big post about the delays just on the city website or on the Facebook page, and that answered a lot of my questions about the various delays. So yeah, great. Yeah.
Okay, so the next one, Sands McDormand property. Talk something a little bit more positive. So we are taking purchase agreement to City Council next Tuesday at their approval, and if they approve the purchase agreement, we'll probably have a closing date of sometime in mid September, and then the property will be ours. So that's exciting. And so again, from the funding standpoint, we have $200,000 in a REAP grant, $175,000 in the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant, which means that we'll only need to, out of the 1.146 million, we'll only need to take about 775,000 out of the Park Development Fund. So that will be a good thing. Again, just as a reminder, once we have it, development, we'll have to get a plan together. We'll have to work through, the buildings. We'll start doing some things during the winter time, taking some fencing out, taking, maybe some hazard trees, start doing some of that kind of stuff. Goal hopefully would be is that next spring we could start mowing some paths. At least some people could be walking through that area, have kind of a makeshift parking kind of where the house is. But there's a number of things that we have to do, but we are excited to kind of finish that up and get that land purchased. If no questions, we'll have Joshua talk about RegBri.
Yeah. Ragbri came here. Right, already knows that. But
It did come.
What'd you say?
It did come.
Yeah. Had a follow-up meeting yesterday with Discover Ames. Basically, all the folks that were involved with Ragbri, even the Ragbri themselves. I guess the numbers came back at around, they think, around 25,000 pedaled into Ames, maybe a little bit lower than that. Early in the week, it was expected to be close to 50 to 75,000, which hearing from the police chief saying if that would have happened, it would have been a disaster. So I'm glad that didn't happen. But all in all, many of the riders stayed in the main campground, which was Brookside Park. We also had Stuart Smith Park available and also North River Valley Park available. Brookside Park was very, very popular. I have no idea how many people there. I would guess maybe 4,000 maybe. But it was wall-to-wall tents. There were showers there. That was quite busy. There were food vendors, first aid tent, all the amenities needed to host them. And all in all, the feedback we received from the riders was very encouraging, very positive. Obviously, the next time this happens, hopefully it doesn't happen for a while, but there will be some changes. But kudos to our staff. Our staff was amazing. Some of them were in some really tough positions, being in some of those barricades. Some of the folks that came in were very, very strong and very just very strong. And so our staff was even stronger. So I just, kudos to our staff and everybody that was involved. All in all, I think it was a very, very positive thing for our park system. And the thing that was great is the next day, by 10 o'clock, our park was open and you could hardly tell that anybody was there. So.
Yeah, I think I drove downtown midday Wednesday, and I was astonished. The park was pristine. I didn't even see any crews. It was like they were already cleaned it up, and I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Good job, guys.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
And I will add, throughout this whole thing for our point of contact, I would agree with Joshua. Our staff did a tremendous job, and some of them really embrace it because it gives them an opportunity to do something that they normally don't do, and interact with a lot of people and be able to show off, our park. But with all the meetings that needed to happen, all the coordination, a lot of that fell on Joshua, some on Courtney, but mostly on Joshua. And kudos to him, and thank you, Joshua, for everything that you did, because it was a lot of work. It's a lot of things. He was out there all night at Brookside, with the campers and making sure things went okay. So thank you for all of that.
Thanks.
So and what's neat too is a lot of comments. I met people from all over the country, outside of the country when I was out there, and a lot of positive comments. There's talked to a couple of ladies from Kansas City, and they said this is an awesome park. It's got shade, it's got everything. When people were leaving on Wednesday morning, Brian Phillips, assistant city manager, and Joshua were out there, and a couple people didn't know who they were, but a couple people were on their bikes or leaving, and one guy said to the next, he goes, I like Ames, and I like the city, and so we get a lot of, and we could go on with the comments, but a good thing for the community. Takes a lot of work, takes a lot of people, a lot of volunteers. If you were one of those volunteers, thank you for helping out, and it was a great event. Courtney, sand releveling.
Yeah, so the ice arena closed towards the end of June this year, which is traditionally different than our typical annual maintenance. Typically, we're closed every May for a month for maintenance. This year, it was to June as we took on a larger project of releveling the sand, a part of the other maintenance items that traditionally happen, and the timeline that was needed for the contractor. So that process started at the end of June. What really entailed from the sand leveling standpoint was we had to take all the ice, the whole sheet of ice came out, so it got to that sand base, and then all that sand had to dry. So long process. Once the sand dried, contractors were able to come in, do their work, and then start rebuilding and painting the ice. As the rebuild and painting process started, the ice was not presenting at a quality state that we and the contractor would have liked. Things that were presenting on the ice sheet were consistent with potentially a leak occurring underneath the sand. So to properly assess that assumption, we have had to retake the sheet of ice out and get it back to sand, so the contractors can properly assess and detect what some of those issues may be that's causing that during the rebuild of the ice process. So we don't know exactly what that is. The ice is down to sand again, and the contractors will be here on Monday to begin that process. So we'll have more information at that point.
As of right now, early September is where we're hoping to open back up.
Best guess at this point. Correct. And that would be the goal, to do that as soon as possible.
Where are all the skaters going to practice at?
I have not received any of that information. All the main user groups and those that have had ice rented between our anticipated open date of August 14th to that first part of September have been notified. As far as their alternate plans, I have not heard any feedback.
We can go out to Shanker Plaza, right?
I think Keith just answered that one.
No. I go out there. Okay. Just check it.
Yeah.
Get out one of those temporary ones.
So very unfortunate.
Yeah, that's a huge bummer. That's a lot of work to have to undo.
So any ideas of what the actual problem where it is?
That is,
Use dye pad.
yeah, that's one of the things that they'll assess is where it's located at. It is consistent with potentially where the ice wasn't freezing properly around the header, around the sides of center ice. So that's really the first point of emphasis when looking at that, and that the contractors will focus on, and then they'll perform tests to help detect exactly what that is.
Did you have any indication before you tore it down that there was a leak, Joshua was saying?
No, the process was going really well. And so we were actually at the point where we did have paint laid and all the logos, lines, and curling circles were in. And then
Bummer.
towards the end of the painting process is when this all started to present. So it was all going really well up until that point.
It feels like when you decide to clean your really old appliance and then it
never works
doesn't
again.
turn back on correctly, So that's a bummer.
So yeah.
Just to give a frame of reference, what she's talking about, there's a header that runs down the middle of the pipe, and it's got, what'd you say, 100, at least over 100 connections. And there's 1-inch pipe. There's 15 miles of pipe in that underneath that sand floor.
Wow.
That header is under 2 to 3 inches of sand. So they have to excavate the sand in multiple areas to try to find the leak. They're going to pressure test it, try to determine the best way to move forward. But it's not an easy fix, to find. We're hoping it's easy. We're hoping it's localized to a couple areas, but don't know that yet.
Courtney, on a side note, I noticed that the Iowa State hockey team has been reinstated as a club, student-run club. Has there been any discussion? Because I know they kind of get rolling at this time. If there's anybody even interested in coming back, I mean, most of those guys have kind of taken off to greener pastures. But has there been any more discussion about them coming back to this arena, or?
Yes, so there actually have been, even during the process last year, some students just renting ice on their own that are interested in hockey. So they've been in close communications. And then we've also had close communications with ISU Recreation Services, the individual that's over their club sports, and then also student leaders for men's and women's hockey at ISU. And they do anticipate and have submitted time rentals for this upcoming season.
Do you know, when does their season start? Do you know? So I thought it was kind of real soon after this is going to be open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, believe tryouts are early mid-September.
Okay.
I believe so.
This will be a crunch.
Yeah. So like we said when we were communicating with all the user groups and those who had ice rented, it's frustrating and disappointing, and we understand it's for them, but it's probably equal on our side, and we do appreciate the understanding that it's something that's really out of our control at this point, and we're doing the best we can to correct it and have a good quality sheet of ice that can last through the season, because that would be the one thing we don't want to do is rush the process and then run into a situation mid-season.
Is there a good maintenance plan going forward for as far as the releveling? I mean, do we wait another 20 years to do it, or do we have like, is that a 7-year, 10-year, 15?
Yeah. So with that, I think it's 7 to 10 years we're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
So again, none of us even knew that until it was people
late.
started asking, well, when was the last time you did it? Well, we've never done it. And so now it'll be into our regular maintenance schedule to do that. But I know there were some other things that were corrected as well. Some of the issues that some of our user groups had talked about, like the gate and stuff. Some of that has been corrected and fixed and everything. So now, like Courtney said, hey, we need to make sure that we get this done right and have a good sheet of ice, and then we'll have the releveling done on a regular basis. Yep.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yep. Monthly report.
Now it's time to remember.
I got HPC is on site finally at Ines Grove Park to work on the renovation of the restroom. So that'll hopefully that'll start ramping up here in the next couple weeks. It'll unfortunately won't be open until the end of this. I mean, it won't be ready and completed until the end of this season, but it'll be open for next spring. Ines Grove Park and Ines Grove tennis courts will be refinished starting here in the next couple weeks. So that'll be nice to get that done. Just waiting on the contractor for the Emma McCarthy Lee pickleball court project. They got tied up on some other jobs, and so they're it's supposed to be done by September 30th. Unfortunately, we have the courts that have been down for a while, but they'll be done by the end of September.
What? Oh, go ahead.
With that, is there any way that pickleball court or the Brookside Park ones can be relined?
Yeah, so as part of the Ines Grove project, the Brookside lines will be repainted. The pickleball lines will be repainted.
Oh, that's part of it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. Somebody asked me about that.
Yep.
What are the posts that have been placed in Emma McCarthy Lee? Are those for the nets? The
So
pickleball
those are
nets,
for
or-
the new fencing that's going to
Oh, okay.
delineate the 6 pickleball courts. that are
Okay.
gonna be installed.
Is it gonna be? It's not gonna be that full height, is it? It's gonna be kind of.
It's gonna be the fencing is 4 foot high.
Okay. Okay, that makes more sense. So, okay.
Courtney, anything to?
Yeah, just to highlight, Parks and Recreation Month was in July, so we had different activities going on throughout the month for community members to get engaged with Parks and Recreation. We held once a week through the month drop-in activities at local parks throughout the community, and we're actually very well attended. We even had bad weather a couple times throughout, and still had great attendance of people within the neighborhood coming out to support and get and participate. So that was great to see. And we also had a park challenge. And we had quite a few, I believe close to 10 people submit our park challenge forms that challenge people to go visit all parks within the Ames Park system. So close to 38 to 40 parks for them to visit with throughout the month and get acquainted with different areas of our community. So that was great to see. And Homewood Golf Course, just something to note there. Rounds continuing to surpass our prior years. As of yesterday, we're close to over 4,000 rounds from our prior year. So great representation of the good work that Pat Wienia is doing over there as far as a maintenance standpoint, and Nate Peets with the managing of the clubhouse area. So wanted to make sure we mentioned that as things are continuing to grow. And Also at the auditorium this past month, we had our first introduction to some classes, theater technical courses that dove into different areas of lighting, sound, and kind of that backstage focus for youth or those 14 and over. So that was a great addition to our programs as well.
Courtney, you want to talk about fall programming, the schedules and that are out? People can start registering.
Yep, fall programs got released earlier this month. So all of our new fall program guides for fitness and all of our recreation programs are live on our website. And all those registrations are open. We will have coming soon for aquatics, our off-season swim lessons for fall and winter, that being released here probably by the end of this month. So excited for those to start up, and as we start transitioning from some of our outside sports, going back to the indoors.
And do you maybe just want to touch about Furman with lack of staff?
Yeah, we are entering that season at Furman Aquatic Center as kids are going back to school, relocating for college, or just getting involved in extracurricular activities. That we are starting to see our staff quickly dwindle. So we've had a couple press releases go out and information shared through our Furman Aquatic Center avenues that we might be seeing some adjustment to hours until we finish September 4th for our final day. So we will work through this week. This is our last week of regular summer hours, and then we will go into in-school session hours starting on Monday, the 21st. So we appreciate everybody's patience, but we do have a good group of kids and staff that are staying with us through the end and helping, and we really appreciate their efforts, because even with shorter staffs, it is asking them to do a little bit more, and especially with some of these hot temperatures coming up. So we do appreciate their help in doing what we can to keep the facility open.
And just as a reference point, there are a number of facilities around central Iowa and across the state of Iowa that have either already closed or will be closing this weekend. So they aren't even trying to stay open. They're just shutting down. So we have always tried to stay open through Labor Day, and you know, people do appreciate staff's efforts. You know, Leanne, Courtney, all of our other staff, you know, doing what they can to keep it open and keep as much of it open as possible. So we may have to shut down some slides, or we may have to close a basin at times, but we still do keep it open as much as possible through Labor Day. So kudos to Courtney and all of her staff.
Do we have
on getting that
like
accomplished.
volumes for Furman for this year, like comparative volumes?
Just for attendance wise?
Yeah.
I don't have those offhand, but we do bring back, once the season's over, staff will present a staff report and present
great.
all that information to you.
Okay. I mean, personally, we go there quite a bit, and I've been really impressed this year. And I feel like the staff who were hired have done a really great job, and they've all reacted to situations. I mean, I was there a couple times when they had some, you know, people who needed rescuing, and they did a great job. And just rowdy teenagers, they did a great job. There's lots of different situations they're put into, and a lot of them are pretty young, and so the training that's being given to them, I think, is really serving them well, and the public really does appreciate it.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I'll make sure I pass that along.
Yeah.
And just for a quick reference too, so we started the season, and basically throughout the season this year, we had 142 total employees at Furman Aquatic Center, and so we are finishing the season with 23 lifeguards and 16 admissions concession staff. So quite a significant decrease.
Any other monthly report items? Okay. Any other comments from commissioners? I think I got all my questions answered. It's been a busy summer. I can't believe it's the end of August. It's really, yeah. All right. Our next meeting will be Thursday, September 21st. All right. With that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Meeting is adjourned.
Bye.